And hello, beautiful people out there. Welcome back to my 2025 panel. And as usual, my regular guest and beautiful mentor, wise woman Babula, is joining us today. Thank you so much, Babula, for coming back.
Oh, such a pleasure. I love doing this with you.
Oh, it's always so wonderful to have a teacher and someone that I've known and respected for decades, even though I wasn't personally sitting with her decades ago, but I was still always knew about Babula. So always so beautiful to have you back. And we've got an amazing topic to talk about, one that we all want to, start to unpack and start to understand, although it's probably going to take us a while to really understand this transit that's happening. Um, so I'm looking forward to chatting about Neptune with you, Babula. As usual, I think, you often do Neptune because you are a Pisces sun and Mercury, right?
Yeah.
So of course, I think that, it's always very significant when I ask people to come back or they've already got a suggestion of, well, I want to talk about this. And it's always so representative of, their chart and who they are and their experiences. So firstly, as we know, the question to all the astrologers before we kick off is, what is your chart ruler, Babula, and what is the significance in your life? How has it played out and influenced you, and how you've really activated and shown up in your chart ruler?
It's a great question. I love the question. And it's one that when I look back over my life, it's been with me all my life. So I'm a Pisces sun, but my rising sign is Leo. So therefore the sun rules Leo. So actually the ruler of my chart is the sun. And it's quite a conundrum to have Leo rising and the sun ruling the rising sign in the sign of Pisces. And when I was learning astrology all those years ago, like the basic concept I got was Leo is all about me and myself, and Pisces is the sign that represents no self. So that's been a real journey. But what I see is that since I was quite young, it if anyone sort of asked me, what do you want from life? And even when I started to really grow spiritually, what is it that you're seeking? My immediate response inside was myself.
Mm.
And that wasn't it didn't feel like an egoic thing. It felt like inside me, it felt like I just want to know who I really am and why I'm here and what's my purpose, but who I am, and what's that. And so I think, and so the journey has been a very Piscean one to know who I am. And that's involved a lot of letting go and a lot of exploring mysticism and the mystical realms with various gurus and spiritual teachers and so on. And do you know what's interesting is that, and I'm seeing this as we're talking, my son is in the seventh house.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what I did in the early stages of that searching was I would place the guru or the teacher on that pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be like that. But over time, what's happened is that that's turned around, and I realize that's all a reflection of me. And I'm not saying I'm the same as that, but
But you
it,
are,
it
that you are God.
exactly,
Mm,
exactly.
mm.
And so all that's been incredibly helpful and very much part of the journey. But as a seventh house Pisces sun as well, it's also been a journey of being there for other people through my work, which is very seventh house sun. I've seen this over many years. People with a seventh house sun, so many of them don't necessarily put it all into one relationship. They're there as teachers, as healers, as therapists for other people.
Especially the ruler of the ascendant in the seventh, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, whatever that
and
ruler is, too.
that's right. And so
Mm.
even in my work, I realized over the years that my main kind of motivation, if you like, was to help people understand who they are.
Of
Yes.
course.
So the sun in Pisces
And it makes
illustrated.
sense then. The sun in Leo, like you said, was about self, was about that exploration of the
Yes.
self to help others, and it was that from a paradox, it become like exactly what it needed to be, as in it's all
Yes.
inclusive.
That's right. And
Mm.
that you being you isn't to emulate me or me to it's to find out who you are. And also because I teach and give lectures and so on. That was a big deal for me as a very, very, very shy young Pisces. But the
Mm.
Leo rising was like life demanding that I show up and stand up and express all of this in some way, find some way to express it. So it's been a very interesting journey, kind of a conundrum in a way, but I understand it now. I
Yeah.
understand it.
And this is,
Yeah.
the why I've got this question too is the embodiment of going through the process. You've just explained going through that process
Yeah.
of really understanding, a Leo rising with the Pisces sun,
Yeah.
and for anyone else out there who's got a Leo rising, what sign is your sun in and what house is it in? Because that's going to represent a big part of your purpose here. And the sun in the seventh, I agree, like it's such I think the sun or moon, any luminary, like the luminaries in the seventh, there's a real sense of reflection, projection. There's a lot to do with the other. There's always a lot to do
Yes.
with the other. Like, yes, the other planets too in the seventh, but the sun and the moon, the luminaries, there's a
Yes.
real strong reflection on, again, there's a lot of mirroring stuff going on there. So it
Exactly.
really makes sense.
Exactly. And especially in Pisces, it's kind of realizing that we're all reflections of each other. And so even in the work, there's an exchange of energy. And I am affected by the energy of others, and I'm affecting the energy of others. There's this
Mhm.
exchange of energy and this
Mhm.
yeah, it's amazing actually. It's
It
amazing. And we
really is.
all we all kind of bring up different things for each other, don't we?
We do. Yeah. And
We
it
all
really is. I really like that, like you said, that reflection of each other always, especially a Pisces who can often be boundless, right? Like, who am
yeah,
I and who are you? Where do I begin? Where do you end?
yeah,
What's going on here? But that real, that phrase of being responsible for the energy that you bring everywhere is so seventh and first house, sun. And, like, I really love that sort of, I think you've nailed it. You're nailing it. And it's great for, it's just like I said, it's great for people out there to listen to how that chart ruler is really the helmsman of the ship. Yes, your sun is, I mean, for Babula, it definitely is her sun, but, yes, your sun is and your moon are huge components, but that ruler of your chart gives you clues and huge
yes.
significance, to your life.
Yes, 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 yes. It's been quite something. And of course, as we know, we're going to talk about Neptune soon.
I
Neptune's
know.
been on a long 14-year journey through the sign of Pisces. So
What a transformation for you.
yeah, that's right. That's
Mm.
right. And yeah, yes. So I'm fascinated for us all, myself included, to begin to experience something we've never experienced before in this lifetime is Neptune leaving Pisces very shortly and about to move into Aries. And it's not just a change of sign, it's those two signs in particular, which we know that's a big story. That's a big deal.
A huge story. Yep. So let's dive into this. I
Yeah.
think as we know, Neptune slows down and dissolves the sign it is
Yeah.
in. So there's this real interesting correlation. Again, very paradoxical to have Neptune dissolving the sign of our identity and our motivation. So it is going to be interesting. And I really look forward to allowing Babula to sort of spread her wings. Now I'm going to put myself on mute as I always do, sip my tea, write my notes, and we'll come back for conversation. Um, because yeah, this is a massive signature for next year.
Yeah.
We're going through a big destabilization process, but let's dive into Neptune in Aries, beautiful Babula.
Thank you, Lat, darling. That's great. So, um, first of all, as you said, Tiani, Neptune is the great dissolving agent, and it's all that there's so many ways to that we understand it and experience it. Ultimately, it is about the dissolution and dissolving of our, false identities of ourselves, of life, of who we think we are, and what we think life's all about. And that process often happens, in my experience, often through loss and disappointment. And because Pisces, Neptune is the ruling planet of Pisces, while it's been going through Pisces, there's been this collective process of disillusionment, incredible disappointment, a great sense of loss, perhaps, of what has been. I mean, I'm of an age where I look back at when I was a child and how different the world was and how much more simple and in many ways easier it was. And there are moments when I feel like, oh God, I wish we could go back to that. But we're not. We're going forward. And so I think part of this process of Neptune going through Pisces is to just to keep letting go and emptying out. It's the last sign of the zodiac. And it's about emptying out, releasing and relinquishing, letting go and having faith that the more we can let go of, the more something quite amazing, magical, mystical, extraordinary can open up that we could never have possibly dreamed of. But while we're clinging, and we do, because we're all humans and we all have an ego structure, it's part of the reality of being here. We don't always like that. We don't always want that. And so we resist that. And look, it can get down to simple things like regularly cleaning out your cupboards. I don't need that. Let it go, let it go, let it go. It can get really basic. When a relationship is over, how do we release it and let it go? Are we going to keep clinging? You know, things like, you know, a parent might be dying and you desperately want to do anything you can to keep them here where actually the person may be ready to go. Are we able to just let them go and let them move on? So there's a lot around that. And so there's often lots of floods of tears, grief, sorrow, feeling helpless as these waves. You know, we're talking about water. Neptune is the god of the seas and the oceans. Pisces is oceanic. And so it can sometimes feel, and it certainly has for all of us, I think, at different times, well, Neptune's been going through Pisces these last 13 or 14 years, like just waves of tidal waves of feelings and emotions and confusion and overwhelm and exhaustion, you know. So it's very much a Pisces thing, the final sign. Like just as a metaphor, you can imagine a planet starts in Aries and off it goes full of fiery energy. And by the time it gets around to Pisces, we feel a bit spent. You know, that's probably not a bad word for how many people are feeling. People are just feeling flattened. But there's purpose in that. When that process is happening, our will is no longer trying to override everything and push and force and make things happen the way I want them to happen. Right? You know, there's that saying, you know, what is it about, you know, handing it over to God? I'm not talking about religion here. I'm talking about something deeper than that, like handing it over to God, you know, thy will be done. And that requires a great deal of faith and trust. And that's, I think, a huge part of what's been in process for us all. How do we trust and have faith in this process that we're all going through when so often it's overwhelming, exhausting, confusing, scary, all of those things? You know, how are we able to open up that something bigger and more mysterious that we can't really fathom or understand logically is going on, and trust that, and that it's taking us somewhere amazing. Yeah, that we can't figure out with our logical, rational mind. So we've all been in this huge wave of energy, and it is overwhelming, very, very confusing. And, you know, it's very easy for people to emotionally react in very, very big ways during all of this. And we see that. So the reason I want to talk about Pisces, because it is important, because it is the final sign of the zodiac. And it is that letting go and emptying out and releasing and releasing and releasing till you can feel like there's nothing left to hold on to. And I can almost hear Neptune saying, yes, dear, that's right. That's exactly right. Stop trying to hold on, you know. So what's going to happen then? What happens when any planet exits Pisces, and the moon does that every month, and goes into Aries, 0 degrees of Aries, which we're all going to get to experience on the 30th of March next year, when the sun will have moved into Aries, we will get to experience something very new. Because Aries, and especially 0 degrees of Aries is literally a birth moment. Because another way to look at Pisces is to think of it as the womb. You know, a baby's in the womb. Years ago, I did a great deal of rebirthing, deep breath work where you can actually experience yourself in the womb. And you're in a state, in my experience, and many others' experience, you are in a state of absolute bliss because we're still connected very much to source. Everything's taken care of. We're just there in the waters of the womb. It's so Pisces 12th house, isn't it? And then, like the ascendant, which is a reflection of Aries, 0 degrees of Aries, okay, and now we're going to emerge out of the waters of the womb and begin something incredibly new. And I wanted to make a reference to the Sabian symbol for 0 degrees of Aries, because it's a doozy. And the Sabian symbols was something that came about some decades ago. And Linda Hill is a wonderful Australian astrologer. A number of astrologers have worked with the symbols, but she had a very powerful journey with the symbols. And so every degree has an image associated with it. And the one for 0 degrees of Aries is extraordinary. And it's a woman rising out of the ocean and stepping onto the land, and a seal is embracing her. And the subtext of that is all about, it's like a whole new impulse is emerging. It is something incredibly, so I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it now. Something incredibly, because I think we're both going to be tapping into something here that we may haven't even considered yet, as just talking about it, you know? And so something new, so a woman who's been in the ocean, reminds me of that story of the what are they, the Selkies, the seal woman. Isn't that interesting? I just thought of that. Um, that old Celtic Irish story. So she emerges out of the ocean, the oceanic consciousness, and she steps onto land, and she takes the first step. That's it. That's a birth moment. A child is born, takes a breath. A whole new journey has just begun. Yep, that's what we're looking at here. And so Neptune's been in its own sign these past years, the last 13, 14 years, undoing a great deal, unraveling a great deal, a great deal. We've all been through a great process of dissolving and releasing and clearing lots of our illusions and fantasies and disillusions and when we participate in that process, in my experience, it's like planets transiting through the 12th house. You know, we see this all the time, and then they emerge across the ascendant. It's a similar kind of thing. If we participate and really surrender with that process of releasing and letting go of everything we thought was real and true, everything, as much as we possibly can, we are then ready for the birth of something completely new. And the thing about Aries is that you're stepping into the unknown. You know, so we don't know, do we? We don't know what's going to come. And it's so beautiful and so exciting and so thrilling in many ways. For some people, that can sound terrifying. But Neptune is so mystical. And for all of us on the planet who've been evolving spiritually, you know, for lifetimes and so many years and so on, this is an incredibly powerful opportunity spiritually and in all other ways to cross a threshold, a birth moment into something quite new. And we will all feel it. You know, you and I and so many of us will be paying close attention, and we're just going to feel the change of energy, and we'll be paying close attention. You know, over those days and weeks as Neptune slowly begins to make those moves into Aries, and it gets to 2 degrees, just to sort of let people know. So it moves in on March the 30th. On December, hang on, where I'm trying to read in July, it gets to 2 degrees and turns back. And then October the 22nd, it will slip back into Pisces. So Neptune isn't yet quite finished with Pisces. So it will have a short time in Pisces at the end of the year. And then January 2026, at the end of January, it'll move back into Aries and stay there. But we're going to get 7 months next year of experiencing, getting that first taste of Neptune into Aries. And why this is so fascinating is that Aries is so different to Pisces, to Neptune. These are very different energies. So I even decided to wear like a t-shirt that had sort of the colors of Neptune, like a, that sort of turquoisey color, and red earrings. It's that juxtaposition of two very different energies, which we can see represented with colors. Like, would you normally put those very soft pastel colors of Pisces, Neptune, of the sea, with red? It's interesting, isn't it? So Aries is fiery. All of us who have a planet in Aries, and we know Aries sun people, they're fiery, they're immediate, they're charged up with energy and vitality. Let's go. No more time to think about it. We're not going back. We're going forward. Go. All the engines are on, rocket fuel's set, and yet it's Neptune. People often talk about Neptune. It's so dreamy and floaty, but it's so much more than that. It's really powerful. You see these images of tidal waves. Water is unbelievably powerful. Now, this is interesting. I'm just reminded of this. I keep seeing even more and more people talking about water, and they're talking about the magical, esoteric, spiritual qualities of water, that it has consciousness. We know the work of Dr. Emoto a couple of decades ago, but people are still, and Aries is about new discoveries, that pioneering spirit to discover the new. I think we're going to see a lot of new discoveries and realizations about the property of water itself. Water in our bodies, water in the seas, water as a consciousness. People often think water and water signs are weak. They're not. They're not. It just operates in a different way. Um, and the sensitivity and as I say that, I can see that Aries people, now I'm generalizing here. I know a lot of Aries people love Aries energy. I have Jupiter in Aries. But you wouldn't call Aries in itself, just as a sign, the most sensitive of signs. It's not meant to be. It's not supposed to be. It's designed to get up and go and push forward into life, make things happen, explore, pioneer, break the mold. That's what it's for. It's not supposed to be overly sensitive. And yet some Aries are, because they might have strong Neptune aspects to their sun. See, as we talk, I keep seeing new things. So I actually know quite a lot of people who are Aries with strong Neptune aspects to their sun, and they're very spiritual people, but they're always exploring new realms and new avenues. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing a lot of. We're going to be seeing in the collective and individually a rapid movement forward, pushing forward new understandings about what's our spiritual life and connection to life and source is all about. I think new spiritual teachers will be arising, new ways of understanding. And I think very probably we will overall in general during the next 14 years become a lot more independent in our quest for spiritual connection, and not be listening so much to religious doctrine and even spiritual teachers who say it's like this, that person's wrong, it's like this. We have to find our own truth in our own way and explore ourselves. And I think that connection to our own connection to source and to who we are spiritually can actually begin to happen very quickly and very rapidly, because Aries is fast, isn't it? It's a fast moving sign, and it goes, see, in Pisces, we're moving like this, but in Aries, it's from here to there, straight line. I think things will move very quickly. And as we know, there's other changes astrologically next year as well. I think we're going to see a rapid change of energy next year. And
Very quick.
very, very quick. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Aries is let's go. Okay, we've done all the clearing out, hopefully, that we've needed to do I've been in Pisces. Now we're going to move forward. Let all that go. That's back there. We're going that way. And it's like a wave. It's a wave of energy that we can't see. You can't even describe it, or logically understand it, but it's felt. It's a felt thing. So it's like those times we've been in concerts, rock concerts, all different. And when you stop and just feel into what's happening and look at the whole field and all the people and the band and the music, we're in a Neptune space. Everybody's caught up in this huge, because music is ruled by Neptune, this huge wave. And it reminds me of when I went to see Leonard Cohen, who I've always loved for decades, when he came out to Australia a couple of years ago. And I was with my son, which was amazing because he loves music. Well, he had never heard Leonard Cohen, really. He knew of him. He sat there with his mouth open. He just went, oh my God. Because the whole thing, we were in a temple.
Yeah, wow.
Right? And so I think we're going to be finding there'll be new forms of music, new expressions of music and art breaking through. Isn't that interesting? The word matrix was just there. So I'm going to say that, just pushing through the matrix and the dream spell that we've all been under. That's the downside of Neptune and Pisces, is the dream spell, the illusion, the
deception.
Yes, the deception. The magicians casting a spell over everybody and nobody really being able to see clearly what's going on.
And that's actually something that Stephen Forrest says. I quoted him here, that Neptune in Pisces, just think of Neptune as a window. Neptune in Pisces is foggy, but Neptune in Aries is crystal clear. There's clarity. So clarity, and it's going to happen quick, like you've been saying, fast.
Yes, it will. Absolutely. And it's like suddenly we'll go, oh, wow, what's going what's going on back there? Because all of a sudden something new is opening up in front of us. That's great. Yeah. Very, very interesting. So I thought it might be also helpful, of course, because I always insist on doing this, looking at the negative or shadow side of energies as well. So historically, the last time Neptune was in Pisces, because, Neptune has a long cycle, it's 165 years, spends 14 years in a sign. So the last time Neptune was in Aries was 1861 to 1875. The American Civil War was happening. And so Aries is a sign that can and does express as war and as aggression and fight. And there is war that happens for, megalomaniac reasons. People just want total control and ownership over everything and so on and so on. But what war can very often bring is the spirit of the true sacred warrior. And the sacred warrior is both kind of doing battle spiritually with our own lower self and egoic self. So it's an inner process, but in the collective field, we see there are people, men and women, who understand what's going on in the world, and they fiercely stand in the face of it and say, I will not do this. And I'm going to stand here and I'm going to push back against this, even in the face of death. And they know they're here for a high purpose. And that's what, so I think Neptune in Aries will bring that forward in many of us, if it's not already there. And we're going to see that in the collective. We're going to see people coming through who have incredible courage and understand their purpose and their mission. And nothing will stop them from fulfilling that. And so, I always think of babies coming through during this period, and then when they mature,
Forces to be reckoned with.
incredible.
Mm.
Because the highest expression to me will be people who understand that they are on a sacred mission, Neptune, to express that energy through Aries to birth the new, to birth the new world, to birth the new earth. And that takes courage and vision, incredible vision, which is very Neptune. And I think fire signs to me are very visionary as well, because fire tends to always look forward, doesn't it? Of
That's
what's
right.
possible.
Mm.
And Neptune is so visionary and so imaginative and so creative and so beyond,
We're going to get this
normal.
movement back, right? Like it's going to feel like
Yes,
movement instead of the in another interview with the Saturn in Aries, which Antoinette spoke about, the Pisces soup. We've just been sort of wallowing, and she called it the frog in the pot. So many people
yes,
are frogs in the pot, not knowing that the water's boiling and heating up, and all of a sudden Aries gets sparked on, and we're triggered, and it's time to jump out of that pot for some people. Like it's movement finally. I find that I felt similar when Chiron moved out of Pisces, and whilst it brought some beautiful shifts and big collective movements, whether it was Me Too and women standing up and lots of spiritual healing and things like that, it also brought a whole lot of illusion and wounding and just wallowing. Like
yes,
Pisces is the wallowing. I'm wallowing.
yes.
So Aries is like fuck wallowing, move fucking forward. And so
Let's
that's
go.
what's exactly, and that's sort of what's
Yes,
exciting about, even though
it is.
Neptune and Aries are very different, there's something, like you said, it's exciting. It's this emergence. We are
Yes,
emerging, and that feels ripe and rich with
yes,
virility, right?
yes. I know. I know.
Mm.
It's fantastic. It's really,
Yeah.
really fantastic. And it as you say that, it feels like we're just going to be shedding off. Like it just can feel it sort of falling, all this stuff just falling off. Oh,
Take it
let's
off
move.
right now. Yes.
Yes. And it can be, we can support that process, like moving our body, move when we're energetically stuck, emotionally stuck. I know what works for me every time. I will often come in here and put on some music and I just move. I just start moving. I move my body, or I get out my paints and I just smush paint around while I'm dancing to my favorite dance music. And everything shifts, so we have to move it, move it, move it, move it, as the song goes.
Mm.
So yes, they can be um, an expression of war. So the American Civil War
Mm.
was actually a war to end slavery. So there was a higher divine purpose to that process.
Mm.
Hideous, but
Mm.
it brought about the end of slavery. So
Which was
this,
the June 19th, yeah?
what's that?
June 19th, which was when the slaves were free, if I'm correct,
Yes,
in a part at that time. Yeah. So, yeah,
that's right. And
very
so the
positive.
war was going, that's right. And
Mm.
the Civil Rights Act, 1866, during this period. But also you see as another expression of the American Civil War and the freedom of the slaves, the Ku Klux Klan emerged at the same time.
Mm. I didn't know that.
Because one of the things about Neptune, it can be to do with ideologies and ideas it can almost be like the religious zealot
Mm.
in a way,
Mm.
that's deluded about what they think is real and true. Um, the first color photographs. So when Neptune was discovered in 1846, that was, amongst many other things, photography was just starting to be developed. Well, during the time Neptune had then moved into Aries, we're getting color photography. And so photography was really, really getting developed. And out of that came moving pictures and so on. Books like Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky and War and Peace by
Mm.
Tolstoy were written while Neptune was in Aries. Um, Marx wrote Das Kapital. So people are kind of thinking about life in new ways. So new ideas are being seeded. Aries is very much about seeding new ideas and birthing new possibilities. But the other thing was that Madame Blavatsky, who birthed the Theosophist movement, she was born in the she was alive during the 1800s. During this period that Neptune was in, she was born in Russia. She was an aristocratic woman, very strong, independent woman. She went off and traveled the world, which was unheard of. She had the means to do it. But she traveled through Tibet and India and the Middle East. She's meeting with gurus and enlightened, lamas and all of this thing. And after her journey, she returned to the West and birthed the Theosophists movement and the Theosophical Society. So she's, you see, birthing a new kind of spiritual understanding and bringing it out of the East into the West. And her work is still highly valued by many today. So I think, things won't be the same because this is a different time and different
Mm,
planets are moving in different ways and so on. So it's not going to be identical, but it just gives us a bit of a sense of,
mm,
how things might move. And there was another period way back in the 1200s, the Christian Crusades were happening. So there
mm,
could be, if we haven't gotten over wars, which we probably won't have by then, but it could take a while on planet Earth before that's all gone
mm,
completely. So there may be, expressions of this energy through wars that are based on spiritual ideals. And I know people hate the thought of war, and war is an abomination.
mm,
But personally, I do feel there are times when humanity needs to stand and fight against forces that mean great harm to this world.
mm,
And that can happen in different ways. It doesn't always mean taking out arms and throwing bombs. It can
mm,
happen in all sorts of ways, the inner spiritual warrior. So
mm,
I think these are just interesting ideas and themes, I think, that will be very much to the fore. Um, but certainly birthing new forms of art and fashion,
mm,
which I think will be fantastic, and creativity that will be much more about the individual.
mm,
I look at cars on the road and all the colors are the same. Everything's kind of dull.
mm,
Walk into clothes shops and look around, most of them, most of the big chains, look around, all the colors are the same. They're all dull, So I think there's going to be like a real resurgence of vitality,
mm, mm,
as you were saying before, and because the color of Aries is red,
mm.
it's fiery. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and even Alice in Wonderland, we were speaking before we started recording, was published in when Neptune was in Aries. Again, like that very again, there's taking the red pill or the blue pill. Like, are we, it is around those sort of trippy, wild sort of ways. And again, seeing Chiron be moving through Aries as well has really brought fashion and people are everything's included now. It doesn't
Yes,
matter who you are, what you're wearing, what gender, any of the, everything's accepted. And isn't that
that's right.
beautiful? So I think
That's
that
right.
that's what Chiron in Aries has really done is healed the need for people to isolate or to shadow themselves again, maybe in that Pisces soup where they were feeling, disconnected even from the collective. And all of a sudden Chiron moved into Aries. It's like, well, this is who I am, and I am accepted and lovable and perfect just this way. I can wear this, I can do this, I
That's
can
right.
be this. And so then Neptune coming in too to sort of bring another whole level of that too. It's going to be so interesting.
That it really is. It's going to be
Mm,
incredibly interesting. And I love that we get a 7-month window next
I
year
know.
to begin to taste and feel and tune into and observe. We astrologers become very observant, don't we? We pay attention.
Hmm.
We're always paying attention.
Yes.
And to really observe and notice what's happening at the birthing of this new era.
Yeah.
And as you know, you're talking to other beautiful astrologers. There's a lot of change and new movement next year. And this one, to me, is particularly significant because, as I said earlier, it's not just a change of sign, which in itself is extremely relevant. it's a change of these two signs.
Exactly.
You know, the dying away and the emptying out and the falling away and the dissolving of the past and old ways and the birthing of something very new and of a whole new vision. It's like the birth of a new vision of what could be possible. And that is just so exciting.
Mm. It is, and also because obviously, yeah, on the panel I've got a lot of this stuff covered, everyone, like it's all covered. But we've got not only Saturn moving from the Pisces to Aries cup and Neptune, which we've never seen in our lives. So of course, this is monumental. Saturn did do this 30 years ago. So some of us have experienced that. Maybe we were teenagers, maybe, we were in our 30s, depending on how old you are. Saturn in Aries has happened for us in our life. Neptune hasn't. But at the same time, which I'm also covering, we've got Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde and the North Node all in this little window back and forth into Aries.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a very fundamentally, March and April are very huge
Yes.
months in
Huge.
2025. So there is a lot going on. And just looking at the decan of this Aries one, because obviously it's the first decan, it's a double Mars, it's the Tower card. So it's like, double Mars smashes through fire, sun, heat. I've written here, head first into new territory, right? Like the ram is smashing through, and we've got, a plethora of planets sort of doing that at the same time, right? And then the Tower card, volcanic, phallic. This is the word, this is the sentence I love about this. It's really summing up also what you're talking about, the eviction of old order. That is the Tower
Yeah, the
card.
eviction. That's a
Eviction.
fabulous word.
Isn't that a great word? I know. I think
Yeah.
I got that from probably one of my sources somewhere, one of my books. But also, it's the Two of Wands. And this is the wands are the hero's journey. So we're looking at, again, it's the new year, new possibilities, conquests, beginning something new. So it is very exciting and rich
Yeah.
with newness,
Yeah.
but the fact that so much is going on in that period of time as well, it's like monumental. And so many astrologers that I've spoken to, it's like we're sort of sitting in awe ourselves because I haven't seen anything like this before. I mean, this is bigger than 2020. If people thought 2020 was big, I'm like, oh, you're not prepared for the fucking 2025 halftime show, my friend, because that was nothing. That was
I
just the
agree.
beginning.
I agree. And I agree with you about March and April. I was looking at it just yesterday, actually. And I just kept looking at the transits through and pulling up charts and going, oh my God, and looking at that gathering
Mm.
as they move backwards and forwards through that Pisces Aries terrain. So that it's like a planet leaves Pisces, okay, we're leaving that behind, goes into Aries the new, and then it moves back. And then it goes, okay. So there's more back here. And then it goes forward again. And I think there'll be times when we move into the new, we'll be going, I want to go. It's like there are times when the baby might feel like it wants to go back into the womb, oh, go back,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and then we move forward. And so that's going to be going on for a while throughout next year, but certainly through that March, April period. And March, April is the Pisces Aries time when the sun's making that journey as well. But Mercury, as you said, Mercury, Saturn,
Mhm.
Neptune,
Venus and Mercury are pretty
Venus.
much at the same degrees.
That's
First
right.
decan of Aries to the last decan of Pisces, back and forth 3 times. So it's actually not over until it's over. There is this
That's right.
energy of, and I've said it in my kit and I've been saying it everywhere, is that you're not going to feel here anymore, but you're also not there. Next year
That's
is
right.
numinous, it's liminal, it's
That's
a
right.
very in between year, and that can feel very unstable for people because people want control. I want to know. And even with the panel, we don't, we're still living in the mystery dreamscape with you all as well. We've got awareness and things, but at the same time, like having everything that Babula said at the beginning to the letting go, it is such a big time of surrender
Yeah.
because Neptune won't fully ingress into Aries. It's just the preview, so
That's
there's
right.
still this, it's the nth degree. It's the baby that's nearly out, but then doesn't actually come out until 2026. It's like
That's right.
labor for frigging months and months
That's
and months,
right.
which is going to be
That's right.
interesting. Just think, you're pushing a baby out for months, my friends. It is not over
Yeah.
in 2 hours or three
And
hours.
it thinks it's out and it kind of is, no,
No, you'll think you're
that's
moving forward, but you're going to have to move backwards actually one more time before you get there.
that's exactly right.
Mm.
That's exactly right. There was something there and it's kind of vanished again, which just happens to me all the time. It's so Neptunian. Um, yes, I know what it was. It was what I've been noticing with myself over this last couple of years, but it's been getting stronger and stronger all the time, especially this year. The need for me, and I think for all of us to remain very loose and flexible because there's nothing much to hold on to anymore. And things are moving so fast in the collective energetically. We have to just go, oh, okay, so this is happening now. Oh, okay, so this is happening now. There's not much left to hold on to.
But people can't, that is a very difficult thing for humans. And we're
Yes,
all humans and we all err and we all fuck up. I
yes,
get it. But I'm just
yes,
saying, if your general disposition is to hold on, and we see it, like Neptune rules the media and glamour magic and Hollywood and all the bullshit,
yes,
right? Like it's
yes,
all the
yes,
illusions. So when people get onto one news story or another news story, but then like 2 weeks later, something completely contradictory comes about at the story that you've just attached yourself to, then you look like a fucking idiot. So everyone just needs to shut the fuck up. Let's
yeah,
just be honest, please.
and just
Just
stay
stop.
very, very open and very, very
Just stay
fluid.
out of it.
Just
Just stay out of it. Like someone wrote on Facebook, like, oh yay, celebrity culture is dying. I'm like, when the fuck has it ever been alive? Like, not in my fucking world. So don't tell me celebrity culture is dying. I'm sorry, if you are into celebrities, maybe your world is dying, but mine certainly isn't.
that's
Like,
that's
fuck,
right.
like that sort of shit has always been bullshit. Like all these people, like Hollywood, all these people of all this stuff. I'm like, are you in shock? Like, to be honest, it sounds horrible, but I don't care. They're all, it's a cesspit of
It
lies,
is.
illusions, and very horrible things that are going on. It's not that I don't care about the acts. It's just that, of course, this is happening. Everyone's like, oh my God, blah, blah, this person, this. I'm like, yeah, duh. Like, it's just this fundamental, like, I think I'm that meme of the little girl in the seat going, like, that's just me. Oh, yeah, you're in shock by that. You're in shock by that. You're in shock. What did you expect from Hollywood? Oh, we're all just really beautiful. Like,
Because what does Hollywood produce? It produces films that we
mm,
sit and watch on a screen and we're mesmerized. I love movies and we
mm,
sit and
mm.
watch and we enjoy the movie, but it's not real.
That's exactly
And
right.
that is exactly what Hollywood is.
That's
None of
right.
it's real. It's
That's
all pure
exactly right.
fantasy. It's
Exactly.
worse than fantasy, but it's all pure
It is
fantasy.
worse than fantasy. Yeah.
So it's
Mm,
exactly attaching to any of that being real and being true, and those people being real and true. They never were.
mm,
It's all it's all a dream. So this is a
mm.
dream, and so waking up out of the dream, I think will start to come really fast for so many more people.
Yeah.
That can be quite a painful process.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've all been through it in various ways. I know I have in various ways
Mm,
throughout my life.
yeah.
Um, Waking up from a dream about something over here that I was kind of enamored of. And then I
Mm,
realized, oh, that's not what and it can be heartbreaking. It can hurt. It
mm,
can be painful, but
mm.
how fantastic to let that go.
Yeah.
And then we're more free, aren't we? We're more free and
Mm,
available to open to what is now possible
mm,
and more real. So Neptune's a really powerful planet. And we've only got to see it as astrologers when we see people who are going through a Neptune transit, how powerful Neptune is. People often think it's not powerful because
mm.
it's so intangible and it's so kind of unfathomable. And it's often very, very subtle.
Yeah.
It can be very, very fine that you can't quite nail it and put your finger on it and describe it because it's
Mm,
all felt and it's all felt and intuited
mm,
and so people will say things like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm feeling, I don't really know what's going on.
mm. It's
But
confusing. A Neptune
it
transit can be
is.
very confusing. And we have been in this very, we're closing down a 165-year cycle. And that's what,
Yeah, exactly.
Neptune is doing. It's like, okay, so for this past 165 years, that's actually what's closing down before we begin a whole new cycle, just like Saturn's closing down a 30-year cycle. So, different for Venus and Mercury. Obviously, they do this much more
Yes,
regularly, but at the same time, it's all happening together. The North Node's moving in, which of course we're covering in the panel, but the North Node's also moving into Pisces at the end of January 2025. So again, now we've got the destiny and dharma on steroids. It's beginning, the nodes are beginning a brand new 18-year cycle. So they're beginning a new cycle because they move backwards. So we've got, the North Node moving now from Pisces through all of the 12 signs for the next 18 years, so 18 and a half-ish years. So again, we've got this, it's a beginning, it's an ending, it's an ending, it's beginning. You know, I've already sort of like said that the theme song is totally The Doors, This Is the End. And interestingly enough, Jim Morrison had Uranus in Gemini, which we are also seeing
Yes,
next year.
yes,
So it's
yes.
just such a, you know, The Doors is just like the theme for fucking
Yes, yes, yes.
2025. Seriously. It's so we really are closing down this huge 165-year cycle, which seems unfathomable, yet this is what we're doing, just like Pluto. Like, you know, we've
That's
closed
right.
been talking about like the last few years. We're closing down a 248-year cycle, and we've never, you know, seen him in Aquarius. And it's honestly the wildest of times, like
It
mind
is
blowing.
unbelievable. It is,
Mm,
and the significance of it, you know, in these bigger cycles and stories is
mm.
immense. And then, of course, there's the story of Saturn joining with Neptune, and they get so close to each other next year. So Saturn comes in through behind Neptune through Pisces, and as we know, in February 2026, there will be another conjunction, which occurs around every 35, 36 years of
Mm.
Saturn with Neptune. And again, and even though it'll happen the following year, they're still dancing so close together at different times through 25.
Well, they're actually at the same degree, 1 degree of Aries from the 31st of July to the 16th of August. So they, I guess they're not by the minute, by the quantum
Yes,
minute, but they're
but they
still
are.
they're conjunct. To be honest, like I'm just it's they're conjunct next year. Yes, they make their exact
That's right.
conjunction 2026, but we are looking at, you know, months of them two being 1 degree away from each other. I mean,
That's right.
we
So
haven't
any
seen that.
conversation about Saturn or Neptune in Pisces has to also consider the other one because
Exactly.
and that's a very interesting one because I was born on one of those conjunctions
Were you the Saturn
in a
Neptune?
different sign, of course,
Yeah.
but it's again they're very different. And when I think of them in terms of perhaps we could reference them to chakras. You know, I think of Saturn as very base chakra,
Mm.
you know, meat and potatoes, reality, the physicality of everything, our responsibilities, and so on. And Neptune is just so beyond all of that. You know, it's that
Mm.
whole kind of mystical realm of up here beyond the crown chakra. But it's like bringing that mystical realm that we're all a part of, you know, source, God, whatever we want to call that, spirit, down here into this physical realm, you know, in through the body, into this life and to this life that we're living. You know, as these two planets, you know, make this transition across, you know, 29 Pisces, 0 degrees of Aries. Phenomenal. I mean, that
Mm.
is just extraordinary. And as you say, and then you bring in all these other planets dancing across that
Mm.
birthing cusp as well. Um,
And we
I
see
just feel like
actually,
by the end of 2025, nothing's going to be the same.
mm-mm, no. And we go back to the last time Neptune and Saturn were conjunct and the Berlin Wall fell. So again, like that was in Capricorn, structure, you know,
Yes,
a structure fell. So we're
that's right.
seeing them conjunct at in Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, you know, the self, the identity. You know, there's going to
That's
be a
right.
lot of identity crisis. There's going to be a lot of people needing to take responsibility. No more blaming, no more pointing fingers, no more, but in my past, this happened. Aries doesn't give a fuck. You
Yep.
know, like this is
Yep.
not a time for that. We are not staying within those past constraints anymore. And that's why I think they dip back into Pisces again, because some people are still just going to be white clawing, like they're still white knuckling. I just can't, you know. And
Right.
I know I've got many people I know, like I trust me, I get a lot of messages daily, and people are going through a lot of stuff, divorce,
They
like
are.
people don't have the courage to do what they need to do. And you know the thing is like we've moved past, you know, evolve or repeat. This is adapt or perish, evolve or die. Like if you're not making these decisions, they will be stripped out of your hands and be made for you. So I'm always like, you're the creator of your life, right? So it's like
Yep.
change or be changed. It's up to you
Yep.
because it's coming either way. So it's like, are you empowered and sovereign, which is Aries? Like I really feel
That's
Joan of
right.
Arc. Joan of
That's right.
Arc energy really, you know, really
Absolutely.
feels
Absolutely.
strong
It
here.
is. Instead of
Mm.
just, you know, lying on your bed and feeling like a victim and it's all too much and I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this life.
Uh-huh.
And I understand that,
Yes,
but the time for that is coming to an end.
it is.
And at some point, we have to make a choice and make a decision, which to me is also very Aries, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to choose. I'm going to go. I'm going to get up. I'm going to get up and stand on my feet. And I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and I'm going to move forward and I'm going to push through this inertia and this resistance and this anxiety and this. Often our fears are just vague things that we don't even know what we're, afraid of. People are often afraid of their own shadow or things that can't even cause them any harm. And I think it's time for us collectively, as you're saying, to get up and stand on our own feet and find that courage. We came here, we chose, we decided on a soul level, however that process happens, we are here. And that's not for no reason. We are here. Let's get on with it.
But
I've
you
got
want,
Jupiter in Aries, so I can sort of sing that
yeah,
song
yeah,
because
you've
let's
got
just get
the,
on with it.
yeah, that's right. And that's coming from a Pisces sun. And the thing is that we also,
Absolutely.
me and Babula are not head in the sand about mental illness, about mental
And
health. We
suffering and real
understand suffering. We
suffering.
know that this exists. And
Oh, absolutely.
unfortunately, it's sort of exacerbated in these times, right? It's
Yes.
just exacerbated. And it
Yes.
is, there's this so much inner turmoil going on, people not knowing who they are or what they want. And
Yeah.
which causes a lot of death. We're continuing. I think even as the nodes move through Pisces and Virgo, I still can see quite a lot of death and leaving and so
Yes.
much
Yes.
love to
Yes.
those
Yes.
souls because I can understand the treachery that is happening,
That's right. That's
and it
right.
is, and we acknowledge that. I think that
That's
that's to
right.
be acknowledged, and it's just interesting that at this time next year we're at this precipice, at this threshold, because maybe you're going to get the vision or have those few months where you are feeling really accelerated or on fire and you're ready to move forward. And then, everything's going to go back into Pisces and just wallow for that little bit longer until 2026. And it's like, what are you still just sort of got your grip onto? Like this is the pioneering, the, like you've said,
Yes.
I love the word emerging. I think that that's a great word
Yes.
for Neptune in, and that vision that you gave us, especially with the Sabian symbol of, it's like coming out of the ocean and making that first step onto
Yes.
taking that first step. It's so
First step
important.
into the new and the unknown,
Mm,
out of our comfort zone, out of this
exactly.
place of, oh, it's just cozy in here. No. And I know for many that can feel very scary. And
Mm,
for people who got planets in Aries or who are very familiar with the Aries energy, Aries just does it anyway. Just,
hmm
well, come on.
Yeah. Act now, think later, right?
That's right. And
Mm,
in Aries, Aries energy, we learn in the doing,
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
action of it, in making that decision and that choice and pushing forward into the unknown. And I've seen this so many times. Other people will say to an Aries, "Oh, that's not going to work. You can't do that." And they're like, "Just watch me."
Yeah. Yeah. Don't tell an Aries what to do.
Don't tell an Aries what to do or how to do it. Absolutely
Yeah. Or
not.
what they can't do,
Or
because,
what they can't do.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that just thrown down the challenge, the gauntlet,
hmm
and that's right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
So
right.
yeah, so
There's
finding
eager. I think the word eagerness too
eager.
with Aries. It's eager. It's the child of the zodiac.
Yes, it
So
is.
there's going to be recklessness. There's going to be
Yes, that's right.
irresponsibility. There's going to be, something I wrote here is like just around, pointless battles, right? Like, and again with
Yep.
Saturn there too, it's just going to be like, what's the war that you want? Is the war within yourself? I think
Yes.
because of so much Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, are you just fighting yourself? Like, are you resisting yourself? Like, are you becoming who you're meant to be becoming? This is very much, yes, it's collective, but Aries is you. So
It is.
this is you pointing the finger back at yourself. Like, this is a lot to do with self
Mm.
identity. So it's very, very fascinating too.
Mm.
Oh, it's just going to be interesting.
It really is. And I was saying to some friends the other day, like I never wear red. I very rarely paint with red, but I've got
Mm.
this feeling that I'm going to be getting out the red paints, because often when I paint, I just like a big can and I just kind of move energy.
Mm,
I'm just exploring and color's a big part of that.
mm.
So I just have a feeling, Tiana, while we're talking, like I'm going to be buying more tubes of red paint, which
It's
is
all
not a
going to be
color I
red.
naturally kind of gravitate towards usually.
Well, we're
You
going to
know?
remember, like Aries, this is a Mars ruled sign. Like, we're
Yeah.
talking, the first deacon of the whole, zodiac, like double
Yep.
Mars, like all of this
Yep.
Mars energy. So it's
Yep.
It's red. It is red raw.
It is red. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the fool in the tarot as well, isn't it? You know,
Mm.
just stepping off, taking a foot off into the
And
unknown.
it's interesting in the tarot. So Pisces is ruled by the moon and Aries is ruled by the emperor. So straight away, those two depictations are very, very different. We're
That's
moving
right.
from the moon of tarot, the tarot moon of Pisces to the emperor. You know,
Yes.
like that there's something there. And you know, like I said, we're swimming in that first decan of Aries for such a long time too. And that's the tower. That's the eviction of the old order. That is the eviction. Like it's what are you evicting from your own life, from your
Yeah.
own world? And whether that is that you're unplugging from mainstream media, fuck, if that's the one thing that you do, high five, you know, like there's
Yeah.
just something that you've got to do to sort of go,
Yeah.
this is my life. I mean, I love those memes that go, oh, who would have thought there's, you know, like a tribe in the Amazon sitting there, phoneless, not knowing any news, fucking happy, right? Like
I
the thing
know.
is, they're not sick. They don't have any fucking thing. They're not all the things. They're just happy because
That's
they're
right.
disconnected and you know, and that's their life. So, and we also have those choices of how sucked into the matrix are you, and are you able to come out from the delusional soup that has
And
been
and
so
find your own way, your
exactly. It is
own
all
path.
about your own way, isn't it? It's the
That's right.
hero's
That's right.
journey. It's you. It's all on you. It's your sovereignty
That's right.
and your
And
sense
it
of
can be that
autonomy.
sense of, again, like receiving messages in whatever way everyone does that, or just an
Mm,
impulse or an intuition or a knowing of, I have to do this now.
mm,
And there doesn't have to be any logical explanation or reason for it. It's just a knowing that comes in. And I think that's going to be accelerating for everybody.
yeah.
Like this knowing, moving through, and the response to really respond to the impulse of that and to move
Mm.
with that, to move with that.
I like that. And I'm the same with, you know, this excitement of the movement and the momentum and the action and the trusting those intuitive
Yep,
hits that you
that's
get.
right.
Because remember, Mars and Aries wants to physically do something, it needs to
That's right.
express itself
That's
physically.
right.
But then that shadow side of Neptune in Aries, what's it doing? It's dissolving, it's apathy, it's maybe having low energy and no motivation. So, really watching the precipice of where you are energetically as well, because you could
Right.
fling into that apathetic state of I can't be bothered anymore, or what's the point?
Mm.
So just
Yes,
being
yes,
mindful again of what you're choosing in that space as well, I think.
yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because again,
yeah.
it's interesting. If Neptune dissolves and can transcend things, we're going to get great like ego disillusion, perhaps, you know, which could be great ego transcending. And not that ego is a bad thing, but also just like, again, we're looking at Pisces energy too, Neptune of like, you know,
Mm.
collective and there's something bigger and really that trust. And, you know, that's really important. But then also this like, okay, so if it's dissolving it too, like that's it, you know, Aries, Mars, it's about movement. So we've, you know,
Yes,
watching that we're not getting stuck in that
yes,
sort of apathetic state as well, I think.
yes. And as you say that, I can feel a sort of it feels like that energy is going to come in and start to really clear, like
Mm,
clear the way. It feels very clean somehow. It's going
yeah,
to
yeah.
clear the way forward.
Again, that foggy window, you know, it's now
Yeah,
becoming clear. All of a sudden, things are just like
yeah.
switching on. And yeah, I feel energized by it personally.
Yes,
And again,
absolutely.
I think that everyone needs to look at where Aries, especially those first few degrees of Aries, is in your own chart. Do you have any planets there? Because
Mhm.
you're about to be hit times 10 with Mars and I mean with Saturn, with Neptune, with you know, with the Venus retrograde, with the
That's
Mercury
right.
retrograde. Like you
The
are in
nodes,
it.
all of it. That's
The
right.
nodes, exactly.
That's right. Well, in the chart of the US, because I do watch those things in the world because the astrological lens is just so fascinating to watch it. Or
Mm,
to me, it's like watching the great movie playing out, and it's just
mm,
fascinating. But
mm.
not through mainstream media, through other avenues, I pay attention to those things. But the chart of the US, the IC of the chart, that lowest point, the nadir of the chart, is 1 degree of Aries.
Whoa.
I know, which just confirms everything else that's happening in the chart of the
Mm.
United States. So
Yeah,
that,
their Pluto return, Chiron return, and now
oh
the
God,
Nadir.
yes.
I didn't realize the Nadir was one
And then
Aries.
they're going to get
Whoa,
this Saturn Neptune conjunction right on, and the IC is a really powerful point in people's charts.
it is. Yeah.
So that country, and
Mm.
there's bigger reasons why that's happening, bigger,
Yeah.
bigger, bigger, bigger reasons why that country's going through so much. Because I personally feel it has a really important destiny in the future, but it's got to clean out all this other old stuff first. And that's a big story.
That is a very big story. And that
It
is the
is.
task at hand is Neptune going over these final degrees and beginning degrees of the zodiac is that emptying out and seeding something new. And
That's right.
it's, yeah, it's,
Something complete. It feels like it's completely new.
I know.
Completely new.
It's like, and
That's
there's
so
an
beautiful.
anticipation, isn't there?
It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
So we can have a chat in 14 years' time, darlings.
I know. We'll be here
See
in
what's
14 years and we'll be saying, now Neptune's moving into Taurus and we'll still
that's
be here.
right.
I'll still be doing the panel, doing all the
Yep,
things.
yep, yep.
Because yeah, it's what a story. But and it's also I think I love that Babula also reflected on the Pisces part of the story and what we've been traversing. So again, click into that, plug into that. All you, I want to say all you Pisces, it's all over, not yet, but the North Node's still got to hit everything. But hey, that's a lovely balm for you after going through everything that you've all just been through. But it's nice to reflect on the closure of that Pisces house, or depending on where it is,
Yes,
if
yes,
it's over, might be over two houses, but either way, like there's a big closure
yes,
coming. We're
yes.
not quite there yet in 2025, but we're getting this beautiful preview and window
That's
into
right.
what's going to happen. So, I also just had to say, very interestingly enough, the day that Neptune moves into Aries, which is the 30th of March, in the liquid crystals is green calcite day, which is not only one of the crystals that I channeled for 2025 to work with, but the reason I did is because it's the crystal of letting go. And the amount of times you said let go, and I was like, yes, that is a beautiful piece. Oh my God, I
This
love that
this
piece.
is
If
my very favorite special crystal that's always with me when I'm working.
I love this, Babula. So
It's
the
beautiful.
totem animal for green calcite is the dragonfly. I don't know if you love dragonflies,
Oh,
but
yes.
they represent the letting go. They've got the air influence, the water influence, but it's just so fascinating that that whole day is a very interesting day on the 30th of March because Neptune actually doesn't ingress into like till 10 p.m. at night. So we're sitting at this 29 degrees all day on the day of green calcite, which is fully letting go. Mercury is also exactly retrograde Neptune at 29 Pisces, and Venus is retrograde 28 Pisces. So fucking put that on your calendar,
It's
the 30th of March, because it's a
unbelievable.
big day. It is a big day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to write
Mm.
that down about green calcite and letting go.
Letting
Thank
go.
you.
And yeah, and just because I'd written in the first part, you were just talking about, we're undoing, we're letting go, we're relinquishing. I wrote some of these words down that you said.
Yes.
Of course, the loss, the disappointment, these are such
Yes.
Neptunian words, feeling tired, like you said, flat and spent. So many people, want to take a sabbatical. Let's be honest. There's so many people out there
People are
that are just like,
exhausted.
they are exhausted. And it's like, I want everyone to remember too that this isn't just you. You're holding collective grief and
Exactly.
waves. And, this, we've got
Exactly.
climate change, solar flares, you've got war, you've got death, you've got all these things.
Yep.
And it's just, and because of like social media and all these sorts of things, we're subject to so much more. It's reality. It's not about not being subject to it, but we're feeling the influences. And so we are emotionally exhausted. It's not even, sometimes people, it's not a physical thing, it's
And
emotionally
it's
and
psychic too, and
mentally, psychic,
energetically. That's
exactly.
right.
Yeah, you've got to be really with Pisces energy. I find I'm not into like, you've got to protect yourself. I just think that, I love the universe and trust the universe. I don't need to protect
And we
myself
stay
from
open.
anything. Exactly. But there's an energy of watch that your aura isn't leaky, watch that your
That's right.
aura isn't, you've got to be very, um, connected and in control of your own energetic sphere. That's important with so much Neptune energy as well. So,
That is really
mm,
important because one of the downsides of Pisces can be a tendency to fall into victim states. Now, I understand that it's tricky,
mm,
in some ways, yes, we can experience being a victim to something or someone,
mm,
but at a deeper level, we are not victims.
mm,
At a deeper soul level, we are not victims. And I think that's part of this shift as well as Neptune go and Saturn go into Aries, is that we get up, stand up,
mm,
I am not a victim.
mm.
I am, well, even if it means saying I'm a warrior of the spirit, of
Yeah.
the soul.
Mm,
and I'm here and I'm getting on with my life.
mm.
I think that's a big part of this shift that's going to be going on over this next year and into 26.
Yeah, the courage, like you said, courage is a great word. And Neptune in Aries does always, even if I'm talking to someone with Mars in Pisces, I often feel like that spiritual warrior energy,
Yes,
because it has
absolutely.
to be something deeply internal, sometimes wordless, sometimes unnameable, because it is a feeling.
Yes.
And I think that that's, we're all, we're feeling the waves of that. I think as we've just shared
Yeah,
this journey together, Babula, I hope that this has been so insightful for everyone that is listening, and journeying this beautiful story that Babula has taken us on as well with this incredible transit that's a signature transit of 2025 coming up. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, well, it has been so beautiful speaking with you as
Oh, you
usual,
too.
Babula.
You too,
What a
Tiana.
time. We'll be here. Everyone energetically, we're all here holding each other.
That's right. That's right.
Mm,
Yeah, and
yes.
it's so good to have people in our lives who understand, and we're all different. We understand and experience it and interpret in our own way, but who understand what the hell's going on
Mm,
and are here for that and
yeah.
open for that. It's a beautiful,
Mm,
beautiful thing. And it's so
mm.
important to have people around us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, another interview done for the panel.
Yeah.
I'm sure this one will be listened to a few times as they are. Um, journey well to everyone who's listening. And like we said, if you've got planets at those 0 to three degrees, especially there's some strong stuff coming your way, right? Like with Saturn conjunct those Aries planets
Yes,
or and Neptune conjunct. And
that's
again,
right.
as we've spoken a little bit about with the Neptune and Saturn conjunction, two very different energies that are coming in. So it's a big story too. The
Yeah.
Saturn and Neptune conjunction. It's a big story within
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. And I'll be
Yeah,
looking forward to listening to the other wonderful astrologers talking about all the other things going on next year as well.
yeah. It's
Like,
a big
yeah,
year. It is a
Black
big.
Moonlight, she'll go into
I
Scorpio, Uranus goes into
know.
Gemini,
I
Jupiter will
know.
go into Cancer.
I'm so excited about Jupiter in Cancer. This is going to be delicious.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, too, the ingress of Neptune into Aries is making an exact quincunx to Lilith in Scorpio at 0, 0.
Ah, I didn't spot that quincunx. Yes, of
Mm.
course.
Yeah, so that
Yes,
ingress
of
day is
course.
really interesting. That 30th, very, very fascinating
Yes.
day. Mm.
It's because I
Uh,
initially thought she doesn't go into Scorpio till mid-year, but it's actually earlier than I was thinking. That's right.
Yeah, it is quite early.
Yeah, it is quite
Yeah.
early.
Yeah. If you're working with me and I'm working with me in there, I think you do as well because I've done your course with
Yes, I
Lilith.
do. Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that exact quincunx at 0, 0 Scorpio as Neptune moves
Wow.
in. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a doozy. Yeah.
That's a doozy.
Mm.
Oh, watch
All
this
right.
space.
Watch this space, darlings. Thank you all so much for listening and joining Babula and myself today. We hope you journey well in 2025 and got lots of takeaways from this conversation. And thank you so much again, Babula, for joining us.
Thank you, darling. Always a pleasure.
Journey well, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.